Hey gang, how you doing? Welcome back to the working week. Another Monday, folks. Bill Sheridan here with the Maryland Association of CPAs. Here to start your week with actually another great CPA story. We are on the hunt for the purpose behind the profession. We got another great story to share with you this week. My guest today is Jeff Wilson. Jeff kind of represents the entrepreneurial segment of the profession. He's the CEO and principal of the W2 Group. That's a firm that provides a full suite of accounting and financial services for government contractors and industry associations. He's a CPA practice advisor, 40 under 40 honoree, former MACPA board member, and one of the American Institute of CPAs Outstanding Young CPAs for 2023. That's an award that recognizes CPAs under the age of 40 who personify a commitment to the profession. And for Jeff, that commitment started early on with a passion for investing, actually. As a student, Jeff figured, the best way to truly understand investing and finance was to first master those foundational skills of accounting. And that's really his message here, that, accounting might be what you study, might be where you start, but might not necessarily be where you finish. It's foundational knowledge that can lead to so much more. So really good stuff here this week. Here is Jeff Wilson with his CPA story.
I could always go to be a finance if I understood accounting. So I can go to be a I'd be a better investment banker or a better analyst because I knew accounting. I could really read the statements. I understood what was happening. And so that led me there.
Yeah. Just a different way of looking at it, I guess, than most investors.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that has been probably my success as a trusted business advisor. I don't really look at I do debits and credits. That's great. But when I serve my clients, I'm thinking about it at that same level of what's working, what doesn't, right? I don't just put out a P&L. I look
Mhm.
at it and, different. And that served me well. That's why I was able to build a successful practice because of that.
Well, that's great. And I mean, you mentioned your clients and the folks you work for. Tell me a little bit about um, the purpose or the why behind your work. What do you accomplish by doing what you do?
Man, so one thing that we help minorities specifically uh, in the government contracting space. And I say that minorities because we have a lot of women-owned, minority-owned businesses as our early on clients, right? We have some majority-owned, and they're probably some of our largest clients. But one of the things that one of the reasons we even started Govy Rates is that we found over a period of time that small businesses had a lot of trouble getting into the government contracting space
Mhm.
uh, because a lot of it is related to compliance. Like accounting is like a barrier to entry for a lot of entries. And I don't think you get any, I believe in wealth and the transfer of it. And I don't think you get any richer than your clients. And so having that barrier all a lot of small businesses had a barrier working with government agencies due to accounting compliance. So what we do is we lower that barrier. We give them a way in, right? By helping them with their accounting systems. A lot of times you can't even bid on a contract until you got your accounting system compliant with some type of government regulation. And so we did a lot of that. And what that did is for our clients, it put them in the game, right?
Mhm.
You can't get any wealthier than your client, and the wealthiest client you can get is the United States government or a state,
Yep.
and so we lower those barriers there and help make successful business owners and employers in these small communities. And that's one of our bases, and the other one is non-for-profits. And non-for-profits come with a lot of different things, and I'm actually working on one right now where we're uh, and I'm treasuring it, but became an adopted kid of mine almost, and uh, we're helping them basically it's supports domestic violence against women. It provides legal representation, and I'm pretty much helping, kind of right the ship there. So these are some of the reasons why I stayed. Like I could go do something else, and trust me, it's a lot of work. But I know that, that organization sees maybe 130, women that need support legally from domestic violence. And I don't know if I could look myself in the eye if I just was like, yeah, I don't want to do it, right?
Yeah.
So that's our mission, and we've done that a couple of times. Those whys, man. We had a daycare center. Lady was able to. She was serving like maybe like 5 kids, and probably wasn't really going where, and we kind of helped them turn it in a year into a $2 million entity serving like 100 kids. So those are your whys, those great stories about really helping out the community, one way or another in different areas.
That's amazing stuff. I mean, um, the work that you're doing for them allows them to focus on the work that they should be doing.
Yeah.
And that kind of work is really, changing the world.
Yeah, you can't focus on the debits and credits. I mean, you got to do that work wise, right? But you
Right.
got to, what I try to tell my team is like, what you're doing is having an effect no matter what. And you got to think about the effect that when you do really good work, what it does for some group of parents, about 100 of them, they got a place to safely take their kids safely to be cared of while they go to work. That that's major,
Yep.
and we also provided somebody jobs, right? That place has to serve 100 kids now. So there you go. And so those are the impacts, the small impacts that we don't really see as an accountant, so we don't think about. And I think we have to highlight those like a lot more.
No doubt. Well, this might be related in a way to all that, but what's most gratifying for you? I mean, what inspires you about the work that you do?
I love what I do for the community, right? I think communities are really a representation of the people that serve them. Uh, But I think the most inspiring thing that I do is really about those that come behind me, right? The younger generation. I had a smile on my face because I'm all about the future generation of accountants and what they're trying to do and helping guide them. And I say that because sometimes they call me randomly with wild ideas.
Uh-huh.
But I like that part. That's the gratifying part of like helping these younger students, or I don't want to call them kids. These people figure it out, right? And I'm glad that I can be someone that they feel like, hey, you figured it out. And I'm like, hey, dude, I hate to tell you, I ain't figured it all out yet. But I like to, provide them some direction on that, especially the entrepreneurial ones. I think those are the entrepreneurial accountants are the ones that typically reach out to me and like, hey, I want to do this or my business or
Mhm.
whatever. I mean, I'll tell you about like and then being like an open space for them, to kind of be creative. I was able to be creative in my own firm, but and they're looking for that. So I appreciate that's probably the biggest part I appreciate about it is why I still do it. There are days when I definitely think about not, but I know I'm helping someone else figure it out. So
Well, that's great because I think a lot of folks who kind of look at the stereotypes behind accounting and finance might think, oh, there's no room for innovation or being an entrepreneur
yeah, or
in
just
in
being
accounting
cool.
and finance, and to see somebody like you who's
Yeah.
done it, can be inspiring in its own right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mean, there you go, right? And those are some of the reasons. Like, you don't have to be, I mean, yesterday I probably had on a suit or whatever, but they get to be them, right? And they have to see that, right? And so I try to just be whatever beacon of light of like, hey, you can do this, you can be creative, you can still be yourself, right? And
Yep.
still accomplish great things in the profession. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of it is that you can still be yourself and be successful. In some professions, you can't be yourself. You got to be a clone of someone else in order to do that. And that's the creativity, that I try to show. Like, hey, you can be creative in accounting. I mean, there's people who got colored hair or walk around with dolls that talk. So it's a lot of, you can be creative, and I try to like open that up to make sure they're clear on, hey, you can be that.
That's great. That's great. Well, you mentioned young folks and how inspiring it is to work for them. Let's say you were sitting down across from a high school or a college student who's kind of struggling to figure out where they wanted to, study or focus their efforts. So, I mean, what would you tell them about accounting?
I would tell them that don't think about accounting as just as debits and credits. If you go there, it is truly becoming, if it wasn't already, the epicenter of business, right? So there's a lot of creativity there. And what I would tell them is that your last title probably won't be accountant. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have to be. Accounting is so, I want to say, so implanted in so many things that it's the gateway to a lot of other different things.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, yeah, I'm a CPA, right? And that's great. I love being a CPA. It's one of my favorite things. But I'm also a developer. I'm a product manager. I'm a CFO. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a CEO. I'm a COO. I'm a financial planner. So but it all started with accounting. It's a really not the end. Like sometimes when you think of, like, if you go to school to be a finance person, investment banker, CFO, there you go. Two titles, that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, our that space is so much more wide open that it won't be your last title, right? Not if you don't want it to be. Now, if you say you just love debits and credits, by all means.
Mm-hmm.
But what accounting can do, speaker, speaker, thought leader, look at Kim, Allison Taylor, there's not accountant under her title,
Right.
so it's really a gateway, and it's not hey, you get here and that's it. No, this is like, take this knowledge, take this information and expand on it. And that's what you got. It's probably not going to be your last title.
It's like foundational knowledge that will make you better at whatever, down whatever path
But
you decide
yeah,
to go. Yeah.
yeah, whatever leads you to. It's the true foundation to it all. Like it's the key to it. It's there will probably, I think in the future we'll find very few CEOs in the future that are not understand accounting very well. I'm sure that that's happened before.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with COOs. I was a big Tim Cook fan when I was in college, right? Because he was the COO. He came from like, you knew he was a cost accountant, like kind of like wonk, right?
Right.
The things that people don't talk about. And look where he's at now, right?
Yeah.
So if you follow some of these people's careers, you see the accounting is very foundational to it. Now he's a product guy. And so you look at even Scott Cook, and the Intuit guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
The CERT. Those are accounting people that have turned into product owners, business owners, presidents of schools, universities. So it's a gateway. It's not really, I think some people look like, oh, that's a fence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not, no, it's a gate. You still go in, but there's so many multiple areas in there to move around. And so, but it's foundationally, it's one thing that'll make you strong. I always say that what's the worst thing that can happen to an accountant is what, right? Like, even if you have a bad day at the office and, like, whatever, you mess up on your job. What do you think is the worst thing to happen? You're gonna go out and go get another. It's even if you fail, you kind of don't fail totally.
That's right.
It's not like, unless you did something, criminal.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
failure of an accountant is not I'm gonna be homeless.
Right.
So
Right.
that's the great thing about it, right? So there's also a floor that's right under there. Like, all right, I always say, like, the worst thing that could happen to me right now, if in God forbid, I don't think it's gonna happen, but my company could go bad or something. The worst thing is I'm gonna be a senior management accountant.
That's right.
I'm still going to get paid six figures somewhere, right? So that's the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
And that's the reassurances of
Great stuff there from Jeff Wilson. So glad he could take time out of his busy schedule to be here today. We want to hear from you as well. So head on over to macpa.org/y and share your story with us as we try to offer a little bit of inspiration to the next generation of accounting and finance professionals. We want to hear what your CPA purpose is too. So head on over there, share your story with us if you got the time. And in the meantime, thanks for being here. We'll be back again next week. More stories to share with you then. Until then, have a great week. We'll see you soon. Take care.